Welcome to the premiere episode of Funeral Results Marketing Strategy Talks. I'm Rob Heppell and I'm here with Brian Young. And on today's show, we're going to be talking about the top 10 insights for funeral homes marketing online.
Welcome to Strategy Talks by Funeral Results Marketing, where funeral professionals discover the latest marketing strategies that get results. Now join Rob Heppell and Brian Young as they share their insights and experiences to help you and your firm during these ever-changing times in the funeral profession.
Welcome to Funeral Results Marketing, Brian. Can you share a brief background about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Rob. I've been working in the death care industry since 2007 in the technology and website area. In that time, I've helped hundreds of funeral homes and cremation businesses better position themselves to grow online and to increase their profitability. I've had the chance to work with a lot of the leaders in the industry, John Horan, Bill McQueen, Buddy Faneuf, Blair Nelson, and that's really helped round out my understanding of a number of things. I'd say my expertise includes developing and launching business models that blend or leverage a website-based cremation arrangement and e-commerce into their business mix or family of brands, as well as positioning traditional funeral home brands and increasing shopper interest in those brands online. So with that as an introduction, Rob, how about you get us started here, getting into today's topics, and I'd like to know a little bit more about what we're going to be looking at in this online series of strategy talks.
Yeah, you bet. Well, I think both of us, based on our experience, we have I think a lot to share, and I think both of us have that strategic mindset, an innovator's mindset, and can actually take these and get them implemented with funeral homes. So I thought that this would be a great way to launch this podcast series and get and be able to transmit this information to to the listener, and that they can take that and apply it to their operation. The first insight that I wanted to share was building a website from the ground up and making it search engine friendly. A lot of sites don't have this in mind in the beginning. It's a piece of technology, and they're built and they look nice and hopefully they function well, but search engine optimization, which is the ability to rank higher in the search engines, especially Google, is sometimes an afterthought. And when we really dive into SEO or search engine optimization, the on-site SEO makes up about 25% of the SEO power. And although the 75% is what we would call off-site SEO, and we'll get into this in future episodes, that 25% is very important. If you put a lot of effort into that 75% working in your off-site SEO and don't have a strong foundation with your on-site SEO, that 75% is not going to do as well for you as what you can having a good foundation. And when we talk about SEO, on-site SEO, you want to look at 3 or 4 main areas. That the site structure includes proper page titles, proper heading tags, so that would be the title of each page, and even URLs that are human friendly, that you can actually read out instead of just a series of characters, numbers, and figures. And what I found when about 10, 12 years ago, when I was launching my consultancy, Funeral Futurist, is that I was able to get my itty-bitty website to rank higher than other consultants' websites within the industry. And I really learned that what was doing that for me was the structure of my website. And what I like to when we're building a funeral home website, we want to make sure that they are built from the ground up, SEO friendly, and almost all of our clients don't have to pay extra money for SEO services from third parties, because this is kind of baked in from the beginning. And I believe that by doing this and then just following with some other strategies, that's going to look after most of your SEO needs for your funeral home website. Now, Brian, I'd like to pass this over to you for what you'd like to share first.
Thanks, Rob. Probably the first tip I would like to get into is using website analytics to boost website performance. You know, if you look at your website Google Analytics, you can see how shoppers are responding to the online experience your brand is giving to them. And what I mean by that is you can see the amount of time they're spending on each page, the number of pages they're visiting, and the actions that they're either taking or not taking while they are on your website. And then from these metrics, we're able to get a really clear picture of where specific opportunities are, or in some cases, where there's specific weaknesses, and how to correct those weaknesses and turn them into strengths. You know, what if a funeral home was looking at their analytics and they found out that most people didn't spend more than a few seconds on the home page, and they weren't looking at any other pages besides the home page? Well, that would tell you the home page is failing to engage the interest of the family, of the shopper. That means the only people who are going to call that funeral home based on the website are people who aren't shopping around online. So if you're not doing strong online with your website, you're missing the opportunity to speak to shoppers. And while that may not be the majority of your business each year, even if it was only 10% of your business each year, that's the difference between a good, profitable year for the owner or a tight year where they didn't make as much. So really being strong in the website and using the analytics to boost your website's performance can really be key in increasing the profitability of your business overall. And so having said that, Rob, what's the next tip you'd like to cover?
Well, and it kind of builds off of the analytics. As we know, a lot of the traffic to a funeral home website is the online obituary, and when we again talk about SEO, search engine optimization, all the SEO experts would say, the current best practice for increasing your offsite SEO is through content marketing. And what this does is it gets links, it gets visitors, it gets engagement on your website, all the things that Google tracks, especially with things like Google Analytics. And one of the benefit that a funeral home owner like yourself has versus all of your friends at your Rotary or Chamber of Commerce, the lawyer or the accountant or the plumber, when they're told to do, hey, to rank higher for your website, you're going to need to do some content marketing and you need to write a bunch of articles. Luckily, as a funeral home, you have the benefit of online obituaries. And because that's fresh new content, there's lots of keywords in there. And one of the things that is important for your on-site SEO is the number of pages that you have. So technically, a funeral home's website should increase by the number of calls that they do on an annual basis. And with that, we have found that, and this sometimes is competing against making sure that obituary ranks as high as possible. Third-party services like Legacy.com, where you want your obituary to rank higher than theirs, is that how do you what's the best way for your website to get that obit to rank higher? And we've come up with 3 ways to do this. First is to make sure that you, as soon as that obituary is up on your website, is that you share it with your family, the client family. Send them an email with a link to the obit and ask them to share that with all of their contacts in their email account. Then send a similar email to any groups or churches that person belonged to, because then if that email came in and went to the church secretary and they thought, oh, one of our members died, we better pass this on, and they just forward it to 500, 1,000, 2,000 people all in the church directory, then you've now really, first of all, spread the word about the service, and also these people are going to be interested parties and want to come back to the site to get the details. You don't want to put the service details in the email itself, just a link to your website. And what will happen is people will then share that obituary maybe on social media, or maybe even link to it, which is another SEO factor. And the third step in this strategy, and this is probably the most important, is to get the family to share the obituary on their Facebook profile. It doesn't matter if you have a Facebook page or not that you put the obit on, because that obit is only going to resonate with a small percentage of the people who like your Facebook page. But it will resonate to probably a 100% of the people that person is associated with on Facebook if it's one of their next of kin. And we have found that this will dramatically increase the traffic to your website, the social signals, meaning people sharing that link on social media. And we even have John McQueen from Anderson McQueen. When he put this kind of 3-step process into place, he experienced an immediate 25% increase in online floral sales, just because people are being directed to your website instead of somewhere else. And those people who are being directed there are probably the same people that would be interested in sending flowers. So not only can this help in that manner for some additional revenue, it will also help in your search engine optimization. Brian, I'll send it back to you. What do you have next?
Thanks, Rob. My next tip is about getting leads from your website. And to do that, I like to recommend being like a hotel. And here's why I say that. If I asked you, you could probably tell me the types of information that the typical funeral website has right off the top of your head. You'd say, oh, well, they've got their contact info and address. They've got maps and directions. They probably have some general information like what to do when death occurs, maybe. Social Security information, veterans information. They probably have a pre-need form and some common reasons that a person should do pre-need. Hopefully there would be pictures of the facility and staff, maybe an About Us page and some merchandise information. But while that's informational, what's really persuasional about that information? And I don't just mean standing up and saying, we're the best, you should come to us. Nobody wants to read that. It's more about the old adage of show me, don't tell me. And to help explain that, I like to examine a different vertical where the businesses are doing very well. And that's the vacation resorts. So imagine, if you will, if you wanted to go on vacation and your favorite beach has a number of hotels on it. There's a Marriott, there's a Sheraton, there's a Hyatt. Well, which one do you pick? You already know that all of those hotels have nice rooms, they have nice swimming pools, nice restaurants, and they all have beachfront locations. So what makes one appear more appealing? Or does it just come down to price? Because if it just comes down to price, that's not in your best interest. Well, those businesses know how to compete online in ways that generate excitement and interest. And if a funeral home starts leveraging the same principles, it can reap the same rewards. Most funeral home owners I talk to are ignorant of the fact that, at least statistically, death care shoppers are 72% female. Well, are you talking about the types of things women are interested in? Are you showing pictures of the kinds of things women are interested in? There's other studies out there that show that roughly half of Americans aren't satisfied with their funeral, even though, I know that sounds incredulous, but even though they give super high marks in the same survey. They say the funeral directors gave fantastic service, highly attentive to detail, very compassionate. They say the facilities were immaculately clean, whether they were a small older funeral home or one of these new mega funeral homes. So the facilities are clean, the care was great, and yet they're saying they weren't really satisfied. And when asked why, they say, well, we're looking for something a little different. And when asked, well, what is that? They said, we don't know. We'll know it when we see it. That's really the crux of the matter. If we can delve into that type of content, we can get people's interest the same way that the hotels do. Hotels are experts in showing you things that you didn't know you were interested in, but as soon as you see it, you're like, wow, I want to go stay at that resort on my favorite beach. That has a lot to do with getting leads from your website. And when we delve into this in the future, we're going to look at a lot more specific details on which pages shoppers are interested in looking at and how to get them interested in contacting you. So I'll pass it back to you, Rob.
Hey, great, Brian. And to actually just echo that and take that a little bit further, when you when you have a specific audience in mind, sometimes you don't want to drop them right onto your homepage. And we've been, over the last 5 years, really encouraging our clients to use hidden landing pages. And what this allows you to do is to have an ongoing conversation with a specific group of people. So when you land on the homepage of a funeral home, there's, as Brian said, there's lots of things going on, and it may not be, there may not be something obvious to take them to the next step. But if you're advertising in a church bulletin and it's the St. Andrew's Catholic Parish, and you're paying for your little bulletin ad, and it's, in that ad, it's, for more information, go to heppelfuneralhome.com, and then you just dump them onto your homepage, that's a wasted opportunity, because a lot about these people who would be reading that particular ad. So what I encourage my clients and for you to do is to edit that ad slightly and have it at heppelfuneralhome.com/Catholic or even /St. Andrews. And what's going to happen when people go there? Well, first, when they see that ad, they're going to, that last word on there, Catholic or St. Andrews, is going to resonate with them because it's something very important to them, because they're sitting in the church pew reading the church bulletin, and now it looks like there's something special for them, not just the generic homepage link. So then once they land on that page, you can then have a picture maybe in front of that church, if it's church specific, if it's denomination specific. In this case, maybe there's a picture of a rosary, and you could talk about the services that you provide for the Catholic members of your community. Now, it doesn't have to stop there. You can then create additional landing pages for all the other denominations. So again, you could be having these one-on-one communications with people through those specific pages, so they feel that you understand them, instead of just sending them to the homepage where it says we serve all faiths, because there isn't anyone who's all faiths. They're a particular faith, and all faiths kind of doesn't make them feel special. But /Catholic, or you could even do this for other groups such as /veterans, /Freemasons, /lawn bowlers, whatever it may be, wherever you're advertising. Take the time to, and it doesn't cost anything to add an additional page on your website. Take the time to track that ad. So if you're putting an ad in a specific publication, that you know who the audience is that reading it, then carry on that conversation on that page on your website. And there's also there's other strategies that we can use hidden pages for, and we'll probably be talking about those in the future too. Hey Brian, let me pass things back to you. What's your next insight you want to share?
Thanks, Rob. The next tip I thought we could get into, our next talk would be getting into the cremation arrangement website and talking about basic advantages of that model. Most people are aware of, I think the name indicates, the cremation arrangement website lets a shopper select merchandise and service options. During the procedure, they'll fill out the paperwork. They're going to make their payment online. What most people don't know is some of these websites are doing over $1 million a year in revenue and more. There's been websites out there that have gotten above the $1 million mark in under 5 years, or I guess just at about 5 years is the fastest one I'm aware of. And these aren't belonging to big corporations. These are belonging to the equivalent of sole proprietors who run their businesses very smart. Some of the advantages of leveraging a business model that uses a cremation arrangement website are as follows. They can easily compete across a 30 to 50 mile radius, or larger if you want. Some people go out of the gate planning to take on the whole state. You've probably seen cremation societies of, and they mention their state, or low-cost cremation of a whole region, like Southern California or something. So that means you can compete across a lot wider area than you ever could with a funeral home that typically has a driving radius market of 10 to 15 minutes max. Also, cremation arrangement websites typically average between 2 and 10% higher revenue fall than in-office arrangements, especially at low-cost businesses. Now, we asked owners why that was, and they said, we think it's because of two things. One, the family has to see every choice every time when it's shopping online. The online funeral director of the website never forgets to include something. It's never too busy. It has to hurry off. Same thing every time. And the second reason is the families feel in control of the situation. Unfortunately, the press has not been kind to the death care industry. Seems like, in my experience, I almost always hear them talk about negatives. The thing that happens, once every few years, it's kind of, it's less likely than getting hit by lightning to have something go really wrong at a funeral home, but that's what the press talks about. So there's still too many consumers that have apprehensions, but when they're in the comfort of their own home with their computer or their family, they can see every choice and make the decisions, get what they think they want. And many times this leads to them adding something incrementally that they probably would have passed off without examining it in the arrangement room, and that means higher revenue. Also, of course, the website decreases overhead. It's an online employee. You buy it once, and then you don't have to pay it and train it year after year. It's a robot. It does what it's told to do. And finally, the cremation arrangement website side of things matches a growing set of consumer conditions in the U.S. Back in 2008, a study that Batesville commissioned found that 62% of families that had previously arranged a cremation said they agreed with the statement that they didn't need the help of a funeral director to arrange their next cremation. Now, they didn't say they didn't like the funeral director. They didn't say they didn't want help. They just said they agreed with the statement, I don't need the help of a funeral director to arrange my next cremation. And I'm paraphrasing that, but that's the core of it. So when there's 62% of families saying they think they can arrange a cremation by themselves, what happens if a cremation business that allows online cremation arrangements starts up in your market? Obviously, with some businesses generating over $1 million a year in revenue through a cremation arrangement website, there's a potential to really grow this segment of the market, and it can really be profitable when it's done right. So with that, I'll pass it back over to you, Rob.
Well, hey, Brian, that's great, and I think that's a great lead into what I'd like to share, and this strategy I call get the money first, and we're still talking about cremation arrangement websites. And in studying e-commerce websites and the best practices is to eliminate any friction points that lead up to the sale. And what I noticed with cremation arrangement websites that were out there, I discovered that they were trying to replicate the in-person arrangement. When you sit down with a family, you get the statistical information first, and then tell them about the forms, and then make the selections, and at the end, that uncomfortable part of getting the money. And the people online, especially the online cremation shopper, that person is looking for convenience. They're not looking to do this over a long period of time. They want to get it done. And as Brian was saying, they think they can, they probably don't need a funeral director to do it. So what we started doing was getting the money first, and then after that, they could then have the family fill out the statistical information and then sign the necessary forms such as cremation authorizations, because they don't want to, if you put a form with 80 fields in front of them, and if they don't know one of those questions, they might just close the computer and either have to research that or phone someone, and then there's a chance of getting distracted. So we like to get the money first, get the stats second, and the forms third. And my clients have echoed this hypothesis, and which is I'd rather chase families around for stats information or get them to fill out forms than chase them for a credit card or for money. And it's just the way an online shopper is thinking. They know they're there to make a transaction. Let them make the transaction as easily as possible. Brian, how about what do you have next for us?
The next topic I have, Rob, is the hospice connection and how big are the rewards. Almost half of the deaths in the United States occur under hospice care. But more important than that to your bottom line is that about 90% of hospice referred families go with the death care provider that's recommended to them, even though hospice is not actually allowed to recommend one business over another. So there's kind of what's officially allowed and then what's actually happening. And I take every advantage I can get, I have been over the last several years, to either interview a hospice or listen whenever there's a hospice worker being interviewed. And what we've learned is that with the average hospice worker carrying about 10 cases at a time, and with 36% of the people that come onto hospice dying within 6 days of getting on hospice, having a few hospice workers who really like you can translate into a lot of referrals each year. So then the question becomes, well, how do I get hospice to like me? What can I do to win their favor? What specific things do they notice? I mean, if they're that busy, they're carrying on average 10 cases and they're driving all over the place, they're pretty busy. How do I get them to even pay attention to me so I can, cut my cost per acquisition by receiving these hospice referrals? And that's what we're going to talk about in depth as we get into that topic, because the other big beautiful thing about having hospice referrals is somebody who hospice has referred probably isn't shopping around online. And while a lot of people are shopping online, the more people we can get to bypass that step and just go right with a referral, those are people who aren't out there looking at the search engines. And that's another strength which Rob already talked about. But if your website is ranking number one in your market and somebody referred a family to a different funeral home and they get on Google and they see you first, well, you've got a chance to pull that family away. So there's a lot of reasons to pursue building relationships with hospice, and we're going to talk specifically about how to do that in that strategy talk. Rob, what have you got next?
Well, I'd like to talk about the people who are searching online and the proper way a funeral home should create their Google AdWords account structure. Though Google has recently changed the way their results are displayed, and although we've already talked about ranking high for SEO purposes, we would call that your organic ranking, so you're not really paying for that. What's happening right now, though, is there are probably in competitive markets, there's going to be 4 ads above, first above the map and then above the organic listings. So if you're in that competitive market, it's really important to have an AdWords presence there. But what I found is, as I've done audits and reviews of funeral homes' AdWords accounts, maybe they set it up themselves. They got that card in the mail saying, here's a free $100 worth of AdWords, just enter your credit card information and we'll get started. Usually that's just a lost leader because they know you're going to burn through that. And the unfortunate part is that usually the accounts aren't set up properly, or maybe they've been set up with an AdWords person that doesn't really understand our industry. So what I found the best way to set up your account is to, first of all, from the campaign perspective, which is kind of the first area of where you start to segment the different keywords, is we're going to break that down into a funeral campaign, a cremation campaign, pre-planning campaign, and then in those campaigns we would create ad groups which would focus on funeral services and then funeral costs and cremation services and cremation costs, because we want to know what their intent is, and if we can follow their intent. So if someone's looking for cost, let's take them through the helping them in that decision-making process and lead them through that. Maybe we show them a cost comparison. If they're just looking for funeral homes or funeral services, we don't have to get into costs right away. We could maybe talk about all the different service items that you offer, or how you make services unique in your area and meaningful for the deceased and for the survivors. And what I'd also find is that funeral homes wouldn't use negative keywords properly, and that means that if you enter a negative keyword, then your ad won't show up. We talked about this earlier. Most of the traffic that comes to your website are people are looking at obituaries. So if people are searching for obituaries in your town, you really don't want to pay for that because there's no buying intent. They're not going to be buying or purchasing a funeral from you or a cremation. Sure, maybe they're going to be buying some flowers, but you don't want to be paying for that because the return on investment is going to be way too low. So we want to make sure that if they're looking for directions, if they're looking for your hours, if they're looking for obituaries, you want to have those as negative keywords. And to take this a step further, to kind of dial down and really fine tune Funeral Home's AdWords account, is we create a brand campaign and a competitor campaign. So then any brand names or variations of your brand name would go into that account. And because we don't want your competitors bidding on your name, your ad's going to appear at the top, but we don't want to be paying the high price clicks for it, such as what for funeral homes in Seattle, Washington is going to be an expensive keyword phrase. But if it was Heppell's Funeral Home Seattle, then they're looking more for my funeral home, if that was the case, and we should not have to pay as much for that. So sometimes, again, these keywords aren't segmented out, and it ends up costing the funeral home a lot more money. And then we do the same thing if it's a competitor. We can put the competitor's keywords in that account. We don't want now you can't use your competitors' names in your ads, but you could have an ad show up that says, have you checked out our website, or look at all the various service offerings we have, or a cost comparison depending on the competitor that they're searching for. And also too, if they were searching for Young's Funeral Home in Seattle, and that's not my funeral home, I don't want to be bidding the high price bid on that either, because there's probably a good chance that they're just looking for Young's Funeral Home. So those are just some ways that you can really dial in the spend in your AdWords account. We'll get into this in a lot more detail in the future, but those are just things to think of when you're creating and managing your Google AdWords account. Hey Brian, let's pass things over to you for number 10.
Thanks, Rob. The last topic I have here for today is called the No Profit Zone, and it's a case study of Anderson McQueen Funeral Home's master key to profitability, and I'll tell you what I mean by that in a second. Back in 1987, cremation really started to grow in the state of Florida, and between 1987 and 2010, Florida's cremation rate exploded from 21% to 72%. Which is just huge. Now, during this time, when a lot of other funeral homes were struggling to survive, the Anderson McQueen Funeral Home grew in its call volume from 450 calls to 2,200 calls, while also growing in profitability. Now, how they do that, and answering that question, is the point of this strategy talk. John McQueen and his team began leveraging a strategy to keep themselves out of the no profit zone, as it's called. So by focusing on some groundbreaking approaches to packaging and servicing that exceeded the desires of both high-end experienced shoppers and also low-cost price shoppers, they avoided the no-profit zone in the middle while becoming the most beloved collection of death care brands in the greater St. Petersburg area. And they're still operating on that foundation today and continuing to extend their market reach, their call volume, and their profitability. So that seems so very relevant in today's America, where the majority of the country is now experiencing this rapidly growing cremation rate. And a lot of funeral home owners are wondering, how do I respond to that? How do I evolve my brand and my offerings in this new era to stay profitable? Well, I think examining how Anderson McQueen did it will provide a lot of answers. So that wraps up the points I have for our first set of talks here. Rob, what else do you have to share?
Well, I think this has been great, Brian, and just sharing some of these insights to get what our intent here is to get your creative juices flowing in your brain. We'd want you to check back soon for future episodes of Strategy Talks. And if you have any questions at all, make sure you leave it below here on the website. And if you like what you're hearing, please leave a comment or a rating on iTunes or Google Play. And we really thank you for spending time with us today. Our goal is for you to serve more families and provide them with more meaningful services. So make sure you check back soon for another episode of the Funeral Results Marketing Strategy Talks. On behalf of Brian Young, this is Robin Heppell.
This has been another episode of Strategy Talks with Robin Heppell and Brian Young. To ask a question or leave a comment, visit funeralresultsmarketing.com/talks. To make sure that you never miss an episode, you can subscribe to this podcast for free on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher.